These are the best pure fighting classes that you can make in Baldur's Gate 3. So while multiclassing might be fun and you can make a lot of interesting combos with multiclassing, if you're going to be going purely down a single line of fighter, for example, or some other class, you have a lot of options still available to you. You can be a really tanky fighter. You can be a fighter that uses two-handed weapons. You can be a fighter that uses two different weapons. You can be a ranged fighter, which is usually ends up being stronger when it comes to like actual damage than a ranger. You can do a magic fighter, and you can do like kind of like an all-rounder fighter that can pretty much do anything. So we're going to break down a couple of those builds and what you can do and grab when advancing your character's level and make them as strong as they can be for what you want them to be. And first thing I'm going to start off is tank fighter. So fighters come with fighting styles, and these fighting styles are very important to what you start your class as, right? If you're going to go ranger, you're going to grab archery. If you're going to go tank, you're probably going to grab defensive, or you're going to grab protection, depending if you want to impose disadvantage on your party members getting attacked, or just have one more bonus armor class. And they can go all over the place. But for a tank fighter, you're probably going to want to grab either defense or protection. There's really no other option when it comes to being just a purely tanky class. What like the best fighting style is. AC is always going to be very, very good. Having one more AC can make a difference between you actually getting hit versus not getting hit. And then protection is the same thing except for your party members. You can impose disadvantage, so that means that the enemy has to roll twice, and the worst roll can end up being what doesn't hit them. Both of them are very, very good. So when you're making a fighter, you're probably going to want to grab one of those fighting styles if you're going for tank. And probably the best one to grab for this, probably going to either be champion. Champion's still going to be very good, specifically just because when you go down champion, I believe it's at level 10, in which you get an additional fighting style. So that means that you don't need to choose between defense and protection forever. You can choose one of them in the beginning, and you're eventually going to end up getting the other one. And while you still get that like extra stuff that comes with being champion, so you get like the extra crit and stuff like that, they're not really necessarily that important, but you're still going to be able to do a decent amount of damage because you'll be critting more often. You're going to want to focus constitution number one, because that's what's going to give you your HP, and the more HP that you have, the less likely you are to die. And your second stat being strength, because you're still going to want to do damage. If your character does no damage, well, unless it's purely focused on, say, support or some kind of healing, it's not going to end up being a very good character. You could go Battle Master. Battle Master is a very viable option for pretty much any build, right? Any build, great weapon fighting, or dual wielding, or tank, or magic. Battle Master is always going to be a good choice because there's just a lot of different variety when it comes to maneuvers that Battle Masters can do that can change how a fight is going between another mob. And changing those things can really give you an edge in a fight. Now, when it comes down to feats, right? Fighters, they get a lot of ASIs or they get a lot of feats. Really both. Every time you get an ASI, you can choose between advancing your ability scores or grabbing feat, which can also advance your ability scores depending on the feat that you grab. Some of them give you a +1 to dex or strength or con or something like that. So if you're going to be going for like a really tanky fighter, you're going to either want to grab tough, because that's flat HP, and extra HP means less chance that you're going to get hitting 0 HP. You're going to want to grab shield master or any feat that has con. A combo that I really like when it comes to feat, and this can apply to any class, that as long as they're using a pole arm or staff or something like that, is to grab Sentinel and Pole Master, Polar Master. Those two together are so very good because they allow you to make additional reactions to, or additional opportunity attacks when people come into your space, and they allow you to stop people in their spot. And there's so many little good combinations that you can do when it comes down to those feats. So we go and read those feats, right? Let's go ahead and find them. Polearm Muster. When you take an attack action with only a glaive, halberd, quarterstaff, or spear, you can use a bonus action to make a melee attack on the opposite end, which is a 1d4, and it deals bludgeoning damage. So you can, if you hit them, you can automatically hit them again. with the bonus action, which is very good. And then you can also, while you're wielding a glaive, halberd, pierce, spike, or whatever, you can provoke an opportunity attack from when they entered the reach that you have for this weapon. So some of these weapons have 10 feet of reach, so that means when they get in 10 feet of you, you can attack them. And when comboing that, when Sentinel, it becomes even stronger because when you hit a creature with an opportunity attack, the creature's speed becomes 0 for the rest of the turn. So if they have to walk through you to get to one of your squishier party members, this is going to be really good when you do hardcore because hardcore, they're going to target those more often. They come to have to go through you to get to your mage. You hit them, they're stopped. They cannot go. And now their plan that they had is ruined. The AI's plan is now gone because they are no longer going to reach that squishy caster that they wanted to hit. Creatures can provoke opportunity attacks from you, even if they take a disengage action before leaving a reach. So typically, when you walk out of someone's attack zone because you're battling them, they can opportunity attack you. Usually, when you disengage, except if they have this feat, when you disengage, you're able to just use your whole turn and walk out of there without getting attacked, which can be very good if you're trying to get away to go help someone or just get out of there yourself entirely. Now, with this, even if they do use a turn to disengage and walk away, you're still hitting them. And, well, they're trying to run away, and then you hit them with an opportunity attack, and they can't leave. So now this creature can really no longer leave you. And then when the creature makes an attack against a target other than you that doesn't have this feat, you can use a reaction to make a melee attack against an attacking creature. So even if they happen to have someone near you, your own allies near you, and they go to attack them instead, you're like, hey, why aren't you attacking me? It's stabby. You know, it's pretty great. It's a great combo. This can be applied to literally any kind of class that is going to be using these types of weapons. You can do it with Sentinel. You can do it with pretty much any weapon, but when you combine it with Polar Master, very good. And one of the big things I think you absolutely should take as a tank fighter is definitely Heavy Armor Master. It is very good. It reduces damage by 3 from any like physical based attacks, so bludgeoning, piercing, things like that. And early in the game, that's pretty good reduction overall because you're going to be healing and getting your guys' HP back up. But if your tank gets hit 20 times, that's 60 HP that you don't have to heal or worry about because they are not taking that damage unless they're taking that damage from magical sources. Then it's a little bit different, but it's a very strong feat early in the game. Now, if you're going for a great weapon fighting kind of style, so you're going for the big, the Chad, the fucking two-handed sword, you're gonna go in there and start swinging that thing around. It's a lot simpler than tank fighter. You're really only going to want a few things to set this class up to be a really good like damage dealing two-hand sword kind of person, and that is, well, if you're going to be a giant sword fighter, you definitely want to go champion. If you're going champion, that means that instead of a 5% chance to land a critical, you have a 10% chance to land a critical, and that can make a huge difference for a lot of reasons in this build that I've made for it. You're going to want to go strength first, con second, so you're going to be able to hit them easier and do more damage, and you're still going to have HP. You're going to definitely want to grab a great weapon fighting style that allows you to re-roll low damage. So if you roll a 1 or a 2, you're able to re-roll that damage to hopefully be a higher number. It could still end up being like a 3 or 4, but it could go all the way up to 2d6, so rolling 6 on both, or 12, or whatever, and end up doing a lot more damage, and that's very good. Also, when you grab Great Weapon Master, which is one of the feats, it's like an absolute necessary feat if you're wanting to whip out the damage. When you crit, so you have that 10% crit from champion, you crit, you have the ability to do a bonus action attack to hit them again, which is very good. It's like getting an extra attack, except it's on your bonus, which you otherwise would not normally get as a fighter using a two-handed heavy weapon. And one of its strongest things is that if you have really good hit chance, you know that they have kind of low AC. You can take the risk to take a -5 penalty to hit them, but doing 10 additional damage if you do. Fantastic. The damage that you get from this is just flying up when you combine it with champion and stuff like that, and already having high strength bonus and other things. Now, for other feats that you might want to grab for this, there's not really like ones that I think are like super necessary for this kind of battle. I would say that you are probably going to want to grab, if you're not doing an ability score improvement, an ASI to just like flat raise your stats. you probably want to grab any feat that has plus strength on it. And if you're already maxing out your strength, maybe you just want more HP and you can grab something with plus con on it. A lot of these things have plus one con or plus one dex. I don't think any of them really go above that unless it's like tough where it gives you plus 2 HP. That's not a stat. And one feat that you might want to consider with this, but I don't necessarily think is a very good feat because I feel like there are just stronger feats that you can get is Savage Attacker. So once per turn, when you roll for damage for a melee weapon, you can re-roll the damage dice and use either total. So you can already re-roll through Great Weapon Master if you roll a 1 or 2, but you could still end up rolling a 3. So you could use Savage Attacker on your turn to re-roll that damage once again and try to get a higher amount. Now, just for that's all it does, like it doesn't give you a stat bonus, it doesn't give you anything else than that. I don't really think it's the greatest skill, in my personal opinion. So it's something that you could end up doing more damage, but is it worth giving up an ability score improvement for a feat that doesn't give you any massive benefits? I don't think so. So let's move on to dual wielding. Dual wielding is not going to be a lot different than the two-handed sword fighting. If you're going to be using two weapons, you're going to start off with one weapon and a light weapon in your offhand. And the only thing that you're really going to want to change here is you're going to want to grab two weapon fighting style instead. And you're going to want to grab the dual wielding feat instead of great weapon master. This means that still going to be able to hit. You're going to get one higher AC from the feat. And you also have more available weapons to dual wield, since normally when you dual wield, you can only use a light weapon, I believe, in your offhand. But when you have this, you don't have to use a light weapon. You can use a normal weapon. So that'll take you from a dagger to your offhand that was only doing 1d4, I think, off the top of my head, to another weapon that can do 1d6 or 1d8, which is a significant damage improvement. And as for grabbing champions for this fight, you're just going to grab as your secondary fighting style if you're using champion, if you're not going to use Battle Master for the maneuvers, is probably just the extra AC. You can't go wrong with having an additional plus 1 AC. Now, for a ranged fighter, I think it's relatively simple to set up a ranged fighter. Ranged fighter, in my opinion, are better rangers than rangers when you consider just flat damage for bows. When you factor in the other stuff for rangers, yes, they can be a lot better in a lot of different ways, but as for like the best archer that you can make for flat damage is archer fighter. The only thing you're really going to want to grab as an archer fighter to set it up is you're definitely going to want archery for your fighting style. You're definitely going to want champion for the crit if you're going for flat damage, because that extra crit is just so good. And if you're going to grab the other one, you're still going to go with the plus, the other fighting style is still going with the plus 1 AC. And then any dex feats will work, but you definitely want to grab sharpshooter. So sharpshooter is essentially the ranged version of Great Weapon Master. You can take that -5 if you want, and then add plus damage. It does minor other things, I guess. So like attacking at long range no longer poses disadvantage. So usually like a longbow, right, it'll have like a range of 150 and 600. If you try to go shoot at something outside of 150, you have disadvantage. You'll no longer have that here. And then you can also ignore people who are in cover. Usually when they're in cover, they get a bonus to their AC. And now because you're a sharpshooter, you don't have to worry about, which can be very good. But then you also get that -5 to add the plus 10 damage, which if you're already rolling really high, you already have a really high plus, say with like a magic bow, maybe other magic items, max dex, high proficiency bonus, you can take that -5 and probably still hit them unless it's a really high AC mob. So yeah, that's the ranger. Pretty simple to set that up if you want to just go for like flat damage for a ranger. You can still go battle master if you wanted to, get rid of that extra fighting style that you get in the extra crit and still go for like more versatility of going around with maneuvers. Maneuvers can be very good. There is so many maneuvers to choose from, raising your AC, lowering the damage that they do to you, increasing like what you can do for your charisma, performance or intimidation or persuasion, and add that. They don't are just combat related, so they're a lot more versatile. Battle Master is a really fun class to get into. The only problem with Battle Master is that it does have a limited resource, so you can only use so much per short/long rest, I believe. Now, this is kind of my last one, and that's the Magic Fighter. I haven't really touched on the Eldritch Knight. The Eldritch Knight is a magic casting fighter. But it's not a really strong magic casting fighter, but it does have magical abilities, and that can end up being really good. There's a lot of variety you can go with Eldritch Knight, and it is fun to kind of have like the ability to like teleport your sword to yourself if it gets knocked out of it, to get war magic, to get Eldritch Strike, to go through resistances that mobs may have. These are all very good things from them. But there's not like a lot of stuff that I think that makes a the best Eldritch Knight. One of the more powerful things that they can do is getting Booming Blade as a cantrip. So Booming Blade essentially is when you hit them, if they move, they take an additional 1d8 thunder damage, and then this damage continues to go up at 5, at 11, at 17. So you'll hit up to the 11 where they'll start doing 3d8 damage when they move, and I think that's a pretty powerful little extra thing that's just a cantrip. Now, is it always going to be great? But no, because it does take an action to cast a Booming Blade, and then you have to attack with that. But it could be a nice little setup in the beginning. You cast Booming Blade, you know that you're going to get in a fight them, you hit them, they want to go for your squishies, they move, they take extra damage. It can be very good and things like that. And you can do all kinds of things where you can be kind of shield like too. You can go a little defensive in this. You can weapon bond to your shield, so even if your shield gets knocked out, you can teleport it right back to your hand, and that can be very good. You can cast while holding a weapon and a shield, which I believe that is under. I thought it was War Magic. Maybe I'm misremembering. As Warcaster. Warcaster is a feat that you can get that would probably enhance this a bit too. So you'd be able to do those extra spell casting without having to put your sword away or put your shield down to do like somatic components that are required for a spell. Mage Slayer would be really good here because it's going to allow you to take out mages really well, break their concentration, and like having better saves versus them, and really a lot of good things there. Warcaster is also going to be good because when they have an opportunity attack, instead you could cast a spell instead, which can be very good. So if you pick up a ranged spell or just some other spell that's going to allow you to do damage in them without having to have like cast a Booming Blade or this and that, it's, you can, as long as you can target them, you can fire it off, which I think is really good. But that's really good for pretty much anyone who can cast. There's not really like a lot of really good things I can think of for an Eldritch Knight. If anyone has any other ideas, you can add them in the comments, and so people can see it. Now, the last thing is kind of like an all-rounder, right? Let's say you don't really want to be all archery, you don't want to be all magic, you don't want to be all giant sword or dual wielding, you don't want to be all tank. If you're going to go with that, Battle Master is probably your best route. Battle Master allows for the most variety in any kind of class that you want to make when it revolves, or any kind of specific class of fighter you want to make, that is. With disarming, attack, commanding presence, commanding strike, base, bait and switch, ambush. Like, there's so many maneuvers that you can choose from to be like your maneuvers, and then maneuvers that you can gain later that can kind of make you turn your fighter into really whatever you want it to be. Like, you can be a dual wielder with battle moves. You could be a great weapon fighter with battle moves. You could be a tank with battle moves. You can be a charisma based tank and grab commanding presence, so you can use your battle die or your battle master dice, or I believe they're called superiority dice, to increase your check versus something, and I think that's very, very good. You can pretty much grab any magic initiate feats that you want if you want to throw magic into your all-rounder, which is great. Those range from pretty much every single class. I think you got Bard, Cleric, Druid, Sorcerer, Warlock, Wizard, all very, very good. And I think that's about it. I think this is like about all the classes that I think that I could cover with Fighter. And while Fighter may seem like there's a lot of options, when you compare it to something like, let's say, Wizard or Cleric that has like 8 different classes to choose from, subclasses that is, there's a lot more variety. But I hope this video helped you out if you were like confused on how you wanted to build your class and what you should be really grabbing if you want to be doing the most damage or take the most damage, or be the most tanky, or be the best archer. But anyways, all of the fighters have been done that I can think of in my head. What is the next class that you want me to cover? Like, tell me, I want to make the strongest X of this class, and I'll put it in my next video. I will see you guys later. You guys have a great day. Bye.